or the price-performance ratio of the rotisserie chicken is really good. When I thought about it, I realized that I can get about 7 to 10 meals out of one chicken.
好，我是 Jack， 在今天生活秘籍系列的第1集，我要告诉大家，好市多全世界 CP 值最高的商品是什么？还会跟大家分享要怎么物尽其用的，让这项商品的价值达到最大化。在这之前，大家不要忘记订阅我们的频道，打开小铃铛，才会收到新影片的通知哦。好，话不多说，让我们一起来看看这项商品是什么吧。
Of course, it's the rotisserie chicken. You might have guessed. And this is actually one item that Costco might lose money on. It's a loss leader for the store. I'm going to show you my 2 favorite things to do with it. It's important to wash your hands very carefully or else the meat will not stay fresh. Or you can wear gloves. The chicken in Taiwan is very close to the one in America. I'm removing the string first. The only difference is that the chicken in Taiwan still has the head and neck attached. Now you can see that I'm separating it into 3 different parts. On the right, I'm putting all of the unwanted fatty skin and bones and other pieces. In the middle, I'm putting the legs and wings, which I will serve immediately. And on the left, I am putting the breast meat. Now, I want to teach you a little secret about the chicken. If you don't know this already, it's hidden on the back and it's under the skin. It's a little pocket of meat right here. We call this the oyster of the chicken. It's even called the chef's reward because it probably doesn't make it to the table, so don't miss it. And now I'm going to start removing the breast meat. Now, in English, we actually call the breast meat light meat, and we call the legs and wings dark meat. I know that the chicken is in general what we call a white meat, right? And beef is a red meat. But we also have this separation for 2 different types of meat on the chicken, or on turkeys too, light and dark meat. Now the body is pretty well cleaned up. There's not really any pieces of meat left, so I'm going to break it into pieces and put it in the pot to make chicken broth. Oh, and don't forget that piece of cartilage that is very popular in Taiwan. It's really delicious. We call it the sternum in English. Also, there's some juices in the bag. You can scoop those out and put that in the pot too. The white meat, I'm going to go ahead and put in the refrigerator. You can keep it for 1 to 2 days in the refrigerator or longer in the freezer. And I'm just plating up the legs and wings to serve immediately. Now for the chicken broth, I like to take scissors that have these teeth in between the handles and break open the largest bones. There you can see the marrow of the bone inside, and that will allow it to seep into the broth more easily. I'm adding a little bit of extra salt, maybe only half a teaspoon, and I'm going to add some ground pepper. I added about 20 to 30 twists of the pepper grinder. And I'm also adding some Italian seasoning. I added 2 pinches. And cover it with water. Not too much, but definitely so that the bones are covered. Now I'm using a pressure cooker, and if you're using a pressure cooker, you need to use a lower heat. If you're using an open pot, I would recommend maybe medium heat. It needs to be boiling, but not boiling too heavily. Also, don't forget to turn on your overhead fan if you have one. Otherwise, your whole house will start to smell like chicken. Look at that. You can see that the broth is starting to take some of the flavor from the chicken. And once it is done, after maybe an hour or 2, you can pour out the broth. You can pour it hot or let it cool, either way. Look at that. You can see that all the flavor and the nutrients have seeped into the broth. And I'm going to prepare something with that broth later. But first, I'm going to use the chicken breast meat to make some chicken salad. And you probably saw me grab some raisins too, yes? Chicken salad usually has raisins in it, or some people like to use fresh grapes. but they can be a little bit more expensive. So I'm using raisins. The first step is to cut the breast meat into bite-sized pieces. And you might wonder where I learned all these uses for the rotisserie chicken. Well, believe it or not, in college, I worked at Costco as my part-time job. And as a college student, I wanted something affordable, and I also didn't want to waste the chicken because I was a single person and I didn't know how to eat the whole thing myself. So that's where I started making it into chicken salad and chicken broth. I added about a cup of raisins, and I'm gonna add about 2 to 3 teaspoons of the yellow curry powder. Now in America, we like to make chicken salad with mayonnaise, but in Taiwan, the mayonnaise is often not real mayonnaise, so here I'm using butter. And I'm using about 1/4 pound of it. And of course, you will need to soften the butter first before you can mix it with the chicken. So I'm putting it in a little hot water bath. And I decided I'm gonna add a little extra salt too because I'm using unsalted butter. If you're using salted butter, then you probably don't need to add anymore. I'm just helping the butter melt a little bit. And then I like to mix the chicken and other ingredients dry before I add the butter. And then mash it together. Don't be afraid to smash the meat a little bit. There we go. Finished chicken salad. You can eat it just like this. You can put it on crackers, or I'm gonna make it into a sandwich. I have 2 slices of nut loaf that I also got from Costco, and I'm gonna pile the meat on. Now, I make big sandwiches because I eat a lot. You can make any size sandwich you want. For big sandwiches, I can get 3 to 4 sandwiches out of 1 chicken. For smaller sandwiches, you might even get 6. Look at that. If you haven't tried a chicken salad sandwich yet, you should try this recipe. It's really good. Okay, now I'm gonna use the broth to cook some chicken noodles. And before I do that, I'm going to cook some vegetables in it, in this case, a cabbage. And I hope you can see that the cost performance or the price performance ratio of the rotisserie chicken is really good. When I thought about it, I realized that I can get about 7 to 10 meals out of 1 chicken. You can see that the cabbage has soaked in the chicken flavor. It's delicious. And now I'm cooking the noodles, and just before they're done, I'm going to add some of the chicken meat. Don't be afraid to share in the comments what's your favorite thing to do with the rotisserie chicken. And there we go. Doesn't that look delicious?